Recording this podcast and doing this YouTube live stream on Tuesday afternoon. We're supposed to be down in Santa Clara right now, but we're not. So here we are, John. Here we are. Welcome.
Yeah, I mean, not mad or anything because we never got in our car and took the ride. Thank God you called me because there's a decent chance. I don't know if I would have checked my email. You know, I had about a 15 to 20 minute stretch where I was going to shower, put on some clothes, and take off.
Yeah.
Probably no email checking.
No, I don't get alerts on my emails. I think people that get alerts for their emails are insane people.
Well, I check my emails a lot. That's why
you don't get a buzz ding for an email.
No.
You're a psychopath if you do that.
Absolute psychopath.
But I had a feeling because I just got it. I was ready to hop in the car. I was going to hit the PGA Superstore on the way down, so I was going to leave a little early down to Santa Clara, and I was just sitting at the desk, and I figured I should call you. People don't know what we're talking. OTAs. We were going to go down to Niners OTAs, give you our live reactions from what we saw, and they got canceled on Tuesday. So we have plenty to talk about, but that's what happened. So mandatory OTAs start next week. Our plan is to go down for that.
If they don't get canceled. It's one of those that was like, at first I was like, damn. And then as the hours have gone on, I was like, oh, not the worst thing in the world. I'm like, I would have stood there for an hour. They would have practiced on the other side of the field. You're in this little box.
I like getting out, just hanging out on the grass, seeing chatting up a few people, just maxing, relaxing. It's not 3 hours. It's like an hour and 20.
No,
hit a Starbucks.
Something special about just that smell in the gridiron. Those pads. Well, actually, there aren't pads, huh? They're just in shorts and t-shirts. So, it's just guys running around.
I think you and I, we appreciate, as much as we enjoy the comforts of our own homes and the proximity to the refrigerator and our personal restrooms, we appreciate that sometimes we get to go out and go to the football stadium, and that's cool. So, there's part of me that still loves that stuff, that just appreciates how cool it is.
100%. It's very cool, but at the same time, we're doing free marketing for them. Now we're in business too. It's a win-win partnership for It's not like we're doing them a favor, right? I mean, it's a win-win for all of us.
Yeah,
we're all
I'm just saying I like it. That's all I'm saying. I like it.
I do too. I like training more.
Yeah, it's more real. But here we are, and so it's good to be here for everybody on the YouTube channel. We're glad to have you. Give us your questions, your thoughts, your takes, whatever you got. If you're on the YouTube channel, we've got a podcast. Many of you may know that. It's in the description below. You can get on that.
I had made a
listening
while
to the podcast,
back,
we have a YouTube channel. So.
A Facebook page, Haberman Middlecoff.
Yep.
I was going to post our stuff. And I somehow ended up on Facebook this morning and realized, we had this little thing. Sent out a bunch of invites. I think we're already over 1,000 people that like the page. So if you listen to this, Facebook, I'll post podcasts and some stuff up there. I'll be getting a little more consistent at it. Yeah, we just got to use it like we use our Twitter account, but way more people are on Facebook. So I thought, I got to use, Zuckerberg, is living in a big house for a reason, guy.
Okay. Okay.
You see him throwing the spear to Audio Slave, that video that went viral?
No.
Zuckerberg's a different cat,
but missed that.
He's got a powerful product.
I missed it. I heard him talk. Was that us? We were the other day, heard him talk, and we're like, that's his voice? Was that him? Was that you?
I don't think so. Haberman Middlecoff YouTube page. Or that too, but Facebook page. A lot of pages.
Also, go to the iTunes page and leave us a review. In the review, you leave a question. Any question, whatever you want. It can be rank your top 5 F1 drivers. Somebody asked me that, my neighbor / buddy Joe, who loves F1 and he's Italian, American, so he's big into the Ferrari team. And he was like, who are your favorite drivers? And I realized, John, I don't know. Leclerc, I like that guy. Runs races for Ferrari, red car. That's cool. But, any question you want, leave it in the mailbag. Bag alert, Major Bag Alert. We'll be doing another mailbag this week, so get your questions in on the mailbag.
You ever watch my movie with Hendricks and, the dude, what's it called, Crash or Rush, the F1 movie from the 70s?
I have not watched that movie.
Yeah.
I wish I had, because I watched Tenet the other day, and that was a waste of 2.5 hours.
Oh, you couldn't pay me to watch that. They heard so many bad reviews. Can't recommend nobody.
I need to watch Tenet again, just as just homework. But there's no way I'm going to do it.
Well, the movies over Corona, because they haven't made many new movies, we're kind of out, right? I mean, I have jumped back in to watch some movies from the 80s and 90s over the last 6 months. It's just like I got nothing to watch. Should I read? Should I do more work? Sometimes I find myself doing that. It's like, there is no TV for me to watch right now.
I spent legitimately 10 minutes last night because an ad came on with Kevin Bacon. He's like floating in the pool. And it turns out there's this website where you can go and just type in any actor's name, and it'll tell you how many degrees to Kevin Bacon they are. And it's really hard to get somebody who's more than 3 degrees to Kevin Bacon. It's really hard.
He's been in so many movies.
He's been in so many movies. I had to put in Jimmy Stewart just to get 3 degrees to Kevin Bacon. So,
I would imagine you'd be able to do the same thing with Samuel L. Don't you think? I mean,
Samuel
he was
L.,
averaging like 5 movies a month or
but
a
Bacon,
year.
don't forget, like Bacon started acting when he was a kid.
True.
But yeah,
Samuel L. Though been going pretty strong for about 2 decades though, doing a lot of movies.
It's true. Connor on YouTube says Sleep Number promo code ham for the Niners players to recover from a torn Achilles every week.
It's actually sleepnumber.com/ham. We got to get that right. Pays the bills.
Nicholas, why isn't anyone talking about Mo Sanu as the Niners wide receiver 3? Yeah, John, why isn't anyone talking about this?
Because no one
cares. Last week, John, and I tell you, it was him and Juwan Jennings going head-to-head. Granted, half the Niners pass catchers weren't there, but
I don't do this very often anymore, but it kind of got back to my roots. Argued with this guy on Twitter back and forth in the reply, so it wasn't public. I had tweeted last night that how good the Bruins-Islanders series was. Still going on. It's 3-2 Islanders now.
Oh, when's
going
Game
back
7?
to New York. Well, it's 3-2. It's going to be Game 6 in New York.
When's Game 6? Tonight?
No, because they played last night. It would probably be tomorrow. Would be my guess.
Gotcha. Okay.
Been a great series.
Can't
Someone's
wait.
like,
who are your
someone's like, you had a show, you had a radio show in the Bay Area. You're telling me you didn't watch the Sharks? Like, no, I didn't watch the Sharks. I never did. And it's
I remember
just
3 people got mad at us once about it.
I'm not anti-Sharks, but in this little business, we just watch what other people watch, right? My really only quote-unquote passion sport would be golf, and luckily we've been able to monetize that and talk about it on here. But
good reminder.
DraftKings game, U.S. Open next week. I already kind of I saw this. I forwarded you just his Instagram, but Xander, San Diego guy, of all the quote-unquote favorites, he's not like 12, 13, 11 to 1. He's 20 to 1. He's been playing. He's been in the mix the last couple weeks. I just think 20 to 1, like for a guy to, I might put it $200 on him 20 to 1. He was in the mix. Remember Bryson? He made a late push. He passed Wolf last year. Mm-hmm. He's a good hard course player, and this is kind of his home turf. Now, that can backfire.
He's a good late push guy too. It can backfire on Rory. Remember when he missed the cut?
Yeah. So, but I think Xander is going to be the guy. Rahm has to he's not even allowed to show up till Wednesday.
I didn't realize that Rahm found out he'd been exposed to somebody, so then he went and got the shot.
Yeah, he got the shot on like Monday or Tuesday.
Can you help me out on this? I need you to vouch for me here. Tyler on YouTube says, Guy, any thoughts on the Nets, who you said after seeing them in person weren't title contenders to you? That is the exact opposite of what I said. I said after seeing them in person, I thought they were going to win the championship. Do you remember what I said?
I think I agree with Tyler. You said they sucked.
That is not true.
I don't remember. I forgot you even
saw them. I saw them in person against the Warriors this year. I said I thought the Nets were going to win the championship. Tyler, that is a misrepresentation of history.
Well, Blake is on clearly went to Germany and got blood spinning because he's flying through the air dunking on people.
Do you remember the stat when he left Detroit, the stat was he hadn't dunked since December of 2019 in an NBA game?
Well, he's dunking now, guy. And he's dunking over dudes.
Have you noticed,
like their 4th best player.
He's a great example. Like NBA guys are doing what the NFL guys are. Like sweet players are wearing single digits. Like big guys are wearing smaller numbers than they used to. Like Blake. Like Blake's wearing 2, right?
Yeah, you're saying like David Robinson 50, Charles Barkley 34, Shaq 32. Like they just used to wear like big numbers.
Yeah, I'm just saying within the last couple. I feel like in the last couple of years.
What was the dream? 30, 32.
32.
Yeah, felt like a lot of 30s.
I just specifically Blake wearing 2 and Andre Drummond wearing 2.
Well, what's the Brow wear? Is he 0 or 2?
3.
Yeah.
So maybe some guys have historically worn bigger numbers, have gone smaller numbers. Just I don't know, very NFL. Because you pointed out to me the Jalen Ramsey video, which I went and found, and the guy looks sweet. He's wearing 5 now.
I think it was his college number. Louis Riddick, I remember, hated him coming out, thought he was going to be a bad player, couldn't cover. Don't ever forget that when you hear Lewis talk about all his hits, because that's a miss. Jalen's pretty good. Part of it was like, I don't think he has the man-to-man skills. Like, actually, he does.
What do you think is worse? Missed it on Jalen or not like it Nick Bosa?
I didn't like Nick Bosa out of counterculture, and so it was just counterculture.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it was very similar. Hey, missed a season. But I was wrong. I was wrong.
I'm waiting. It's a good call. If he misses a couple years, you should come all the way back around with an "I told you so."
Again, I don't know if it's racist. I can just be anti-white guy super high. I didn't like Joey. I remember when they took Joey 3, I was like, what are they doing? I just question. Now those guys are exceptional. I mean, I didn't like Christian McCaffrey. I thought he was going to be Julian Edelman.
Yeah, maybe there's a pattern here.
Yeah. I'm the opposite of, I guess what Twitter tells me that I actually am.
Yeah, you're I don't know.
Anti-white guy.
Yeah. Well, that's like the other day somebody texted me some
anti-good-looking rip white guy.
Van Gundy said that Jokic is like, no, he said Doncic is sneaky fast.
I feel like
what makes him sneaky?
Is he just kind of slow? But he knows what he's doing.
Well, I heard. I was listening to Pardon My Take this morning, and there was a conversation about, I guess, Paul George tried to do the jersey exchange, and Luka didn't want to do it on the court, and there was some theory that maybe it's because Luka's not cut. They didn't want to do a jersey exchange on the court.
Yeah,
because
you don't ever want to let your man boobs out. National TV cameras.
It's just a dangerous place.
Yeah,
it's a dangerous place. All right. So a lot to get to today. We're glad everyone's here on YouTube. Again, if you're listening to the podcast, circle back on the YouTube channel. We'll have more content there as always. Like Monday, we did a YouTube-only video about something Albert Breer wrote, and really just more about Julio and the NFC than specifically that Breer said nobody in the NFC offered the Falcons anything for Julio. But
I'll put that up on the Facebook page.
Good idea.
I'm the social media manager.
Remember when wasn't it on? It was on Facebook way back many moons ago when we were doing radio. Facebook first came out with the live stream.
Yeah.
And we started streaming our radio show, the video of it, right?
I think on 95.7 the game's stream, right? Or was it our own?
I feel like we might have done it on our own, but maybe it was on the 95.7 page. The point is, a couple things happened. One, Facebook's numbers were dramatically off. We were getting 80,000 views in like 10 minutes.
I thought we'd have total like 380,000.
Yeah, it would total, but it'd be like, 80,000 concurrent views. It's like, what is going? Like, okay, guess we're blowing up. So there was that. Facebook changed that, and then Facebook, remember, immediately they did a thing where they flipped the camera. So you couldn't like just put up advertising behind you. They wanted to get a cut of it.
Yeah,
because it would reverse the image.
Anti-business Zuckerberg.
Anti-business
take all the money.
And then we got told we had to stop doing it by the company. They said stop streaming on the internet. Stop video streaming on the internet. That clearly is going nowhere. You guys are taking money out of our pockets when you stream on the internet video.
Yeah, there was this chick we just kept hearing about called Wheezy. She was like the corporate lawyer who was always really mad at us, yet I never talked to her. I always heard like, Wheezy wants you to do this. I'm like, why doesn't she just shoot me an email then? Like,
I thought it was our direct boss. I didn't remember it that way.
Well, it was, but he always claimed that he was being told. It's classic middleman.
Which I don't.
It was hard to ever keep track.
I feel like things always got pushed on invisible people. Like, oh yeah, they said.
Yeah, it's an easy one. It'd be my go-to move if I was an assistant coach. I'd be like, Kyle wants us to do this, even though it's my idea, and I just know that'll get them to do it. Like they'll push back and be like, yeah, Kyle wants this done. And if I really want, like if I work for the Cowboys, I'd be like, yeah, Jerry wants you to be outside shade there. That's what I would say all the time. Whoever's the most powerful guy in my building, that would be my go-to move as a position coach. I'd be like, yeah, the general
so
partner,
you're the position coach. You would pretend like you're talking to one of the main owners.
Or if I had like, obviously with New England, I guess with Kyle, he has all the video cameras in every individual room, so you have to be careful. Yeah, I do owners. Like L.A., Kroenke. Yeah, this is what Stan wants, guys.
Stan says OTAs got to be practice full pads. Stan said full pads.
It's not my choice.
Out of my hands.
Signs all of our checks.
All right, let's dive in, John, to a few things, and I think the number one thing is is easy. We can actually begin the conversation. Robert on YouTube says injuries happen in OTAs all the time. Just hoping no starters are hurt. That's obviously where we're going to start. So you want to start there with a little 3-2-1 action? This is how we do this.
Let's do it.
For those of you who are new to the stream or maybe check in from time to time, this is also a podcast recording. So we cut up some of these videos into smaller videos. So we do the open to those smaller videos. We just do them live. We pull the curtain back. We give you access that nobody else gives you, John.
We are a transparent, open book.
To the behind-the-scenes machinations. Transparent,
Let's
open
do it.
book. Yeah. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. 3, 2. Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. I need you to subscribe to that as well.
Also, check out our friends at wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off the best bottles in the world. Send a gift.
20% off. Send a gift right now. 20% off wineaccess.com/ham. Do it.
So the news that the Niners canceled OTAs may or may not be related Tuesday to the news that came out on Tuesday morning from Monday's OTA practice, which was not good. Justin School, ACL injury, and Tarvarius Moore, Achilles injury. You know, we already had the Jeff Wilson injury as well. So two pretty major injuries to 49ers on Tuesday. Not necessarily to targeted starters, but Tarvarius Moore plays a lot, maybe could have as a safety. And obviously Justin School played a lot last year, played some guard, played some tackle. Depth taking a major hit. Actually, I was looking back at it. Unofficial count, somebody can correct me, but just at a quick view, I think there were only a handful of players that the Niners had available and active for every game last year. I think Tarvarius Moore, Fred Warner, Marcel Harris, Eric Armstead, Azeez Al-Shire. I think that's the list, but again, that was a quick glance here before we started.
Yeah, I mean, School definitely started that. If you remember the Super Bowl year when McGlinchey and Joe Staley both went down for several games as a rookie. Now, I saw a lot of people saying he was no lock to make the roster. I understand that. And just like Tarvarius Moore, you're not losing Ed Reed in his prime. But the overall arching point is it was rattling to any single human being just in the league, let alone if you follow this team, to know this team has the market cornered on injuries. That's not even debatable. It's literally they've done the studies the last couple of years. They had more injuries last year than any team. The year before, they made the Super Bowl. Tackles were dropping like flies. Guys were it was crazy. It was nuts. And then their quarterback, who the healthiest year he had was 19, gets hurt all the time. So they just have guys that drop like flies. And to me, just to read that headline of maybe they sent out a press release too, but I saw it first on Twitter, an ACL and Achilles injury at an OTA practice, and I'm with whoever the commenter was, and I understand people say people get hurt. People get hurt playing football. People get hurt doing physical activity. It's just part of life, let alone football. In the offseason, I would say the two go-to injuries are you're not going to tear shoulders, right? You're not going to have labrum tears because you're not tackling. You're going to have Achilles and you're going to have ACLs. That is not abnormal. Hell, the Niners, it happened once upon a time to Crabtree. Remember, that was probably the most eye-opening Achilles in an offseason. Well, I remember in Philadelphia, Jeremy Maclin tore his Achilles, like it's stop and start stuff. But to have two of them, they are devastating injuries. Not that they are career-altering, but that they knock guys out for the season.
And they can be career-altering.
And they can be, but just like these guys, these are two players. One for sure would have made the roster. The other more than likely would have. They're just on injured reserve. That are just gone in a practice for a team that, like, listen, they've admitted it. Like I said before, I don't pretend, no one does, to understand like strength and conditioning doctors, how it really impacts this. But like a couple years ago, they fired everybody. Like they admitted it, like they had a problem. It's not even an opinion.
They didn't even
right?
know exactly what the problem was. All you have sometimes is the end result data. How do you get there can be very unique, injury to injury, body to body. Every body is different. But yes, they clearly were at a desperate spot a couple years ago when they changed staffs. Because that's a thing you do out of desperate. Like, what else can we do?
But what else can you do, right? If your offensive line's playing shitty, you just go, we need a different coach. When you have guys just tearing ACLs, you can go, we need new doctors. Well, yeah, Stanford, your doctors are from Stanford. We need new trainers. Well, your trainers were there for Super Bowls, right? I mean, you're in NFC championships under Harbaugh. We need a new strength coach. Well, okay, but is that really the problem?
We need new turf, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the conversation last year after a couple guys got hurt, after Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa got hurt in New York, right? It's their turf. It's their turf.
Yeah, everyone. I mean, the Niners were adamant. I don't blame them. I mean, that was a.
I heard from a turf expert that turf is bad,
but it didn't feel like it. Guys kept going down throughout the season, right? Now Saquon. I mean,
Saquon's injury was a little different. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's not like guys on other teams don't get ACLs and Achilles. Part of it is specifically if that news came out for a team that hadn't been dealing with what feels like a very significant injury bug now for several years and multiple training staffs, it would not be the same piece of news, right? Yeah. But I think part of it is like, okay, what's next? How many years can you be injury prone before it's not just bad luck? Because the Niners, like you said a couple years ago, clearly said, well, maybe it's bad luck. Maybe we don't really know, but we got to change something. So
for example, I know they've told a lot of people, obviously in our email that we got this was a planned deal. And listen, I haven't asked anyone. I'm not a journalist. I'm not really trying to find the truth. I just know my gut says this was when you have two major injuries in an OTA, and you had to assume, unless they were in the weight room, let's just say they happened on the practice field, an Achilles and an ACL, I think it's fair to assume that both guys went down, right? When they go down, they have to be helped off. Like you and I have been at enough practices. That's a jarring moment with one guy throughout a practice. Whoever the second was in the order of this, I can't imagine they kept practicing after the second Achilles.
That would be one of my first questions. Did practice end after the second injury? Yeah.
So once the practice ends after the second injury, whether it was the Achilles or they had to think, let's just take a deep breath, let's just get till tomorrow, and then they got to tomorrow, and they just people are still – that had to just be a jolting moment for a lot of these guys that even just kind of role players that have just seen a lot of their teammates go down. And the elephant in the room is we were supposed to boycott, right? And now we're here, and now guys are going down. And the way the NFL works, it's not like Kevin Durant. You tear an Achilles, people are still giving you the max. You still get money. Like NFL, boom, you're cut, right? Is Justin School, his career could be over. If Tavarius never is the same, he'll never play again. So the majority of guys, Trent Williams ain't even there. But if you're like Fred Warner, you're like, God, I'm hopefully a couple months away from signing a huge extension. I don't want to just chase Trey Sermon to the left and have a knee go out. Mm-hmm. It's got to be rattling. So my gut says, and I don't blame them at all, let's throw a barbecue today or something. Let's just chill.
Well,
or send them home early or do whatever.
Especially in a year where the Niners are one of the teams where a lot of guys showed up to voluntary camp. But like you said, there were a lot of players and certainly before it even all began, there were a lot of players who were considering not showing up. Now, ultimately, more did show up than maybe we initially thought would, or at least they led everyone to believe would, that they were going to boycott OTAs. But if you're those players, if you're one of those guys who was on the fence and decided to show up, I wonder if part of it is maybe I wasn't going to practice today anyway, right?
Now, ultimately, and you and I were talking about this before we hopped on, is let's just say hypothetically, and we don't know, by the time you listen to this tomorrow, there might be highlights. Well, I guess there won't because the media is not allowed. But let's say they don't practice again. They cancel, they just have walkthrough meetings tomorrow, and the mandatory minicamp doesn't happen. Because I would say that's on the table right now. Are you confident that practices are going to happen next week?
No.
And it's I
partly
wouldn't blame
because
them
they had good attendance for voluntary.
And
really, you don't need to. Well, we got to wait till Trent Williams and Juice show up.
Yeah, and it feels like they've been going now pretty strong for a couple months, right? Just with the group together, right around the draft, everyone got back together. But my thing is, eventually, and this is the hard part about the sport, is you do have to practice, right? And once you start with pads, you're going even faster. It's just the nature of the sport. They are going to have an injury in training camp, 1,000,000%. More than likely, a day that we're there, a guy will get, hopefully not carted off the field, but even just a broken hand, right? Just a strained, a dude running a go route grabs a hammy. It's just, that happens at every camp. When I first got in the NFL, my job was to roto world and just input injuries. And it was just training camp was insane. It was God damn, it never stops. So it's going to be, is everyone going to be happening again when Ayuk has a hammy August 1st, right? Ultimately,
that would be the reaction, yeah.
Yeah, but it might not even be that big a deal, right? That's just football, right? Because
that specific player gets that specific injury,
but it happened to him before.
That's why I'm saying if Brandon Ayuk gets a hamstring.
But you agree it's coming. Like they're going to have an injury in training camp.
Well, I mean, this is the part you can't hide from is you're playing football. Like eventually you cancel some practices, maybe you cancel mandatory OTAs, but eventually you got to play football, right?
Like eventually Nick Bosa's lining up as your starting defensive end. And he can't just do it week 1. That can't be his first time in pads, right? He's going to practice.
Well, did you hear I know you heard it because you mentioned it. I don't know if you mentioned it on the podcast the other day or you mentioned it just when we were talking. Julian Edelman's appearance on Chris Long's podcast. And one of the things they talked about was the game that New England played last year on, no notice. Was that on a Tuesday or a Monday? I think it was a Tuesday, wasn't it? Or maybe it was a Wednesday in Kansas City. What was the deal on that one?
They played the weirdest game, yeah, because Cam was out and they pushed the game back. It was a weird. I remember they did a Wednesday game.
And one thing he said was we flew in day of the game.
Belichick, yeah, that was. Remember they were like down 3 points at halftime, and he was like, "This is the greatest game Belichick's ever coached."
And Julian
it was remarkable.
But one thing Julian said is that he's like, I've never been so tight for a football game. Like I just was not prepared to play that game physically, my body. Right, there is an element. Now that's a specific short-term buildup. We're talking about a longer-term buildup.
Last year was unique with some of those weekday games.
But the point is just you can't just walk onto the field cold and start playing the sport. That's the point.
Yeah, the NFL was pretty cold-blooded last year. Like we're getting these goddamn games in.
Blooded.
We're getting these games.
What day was that game? I feel like the game was
I think it was a Wednesday. The Chiefs played multiple Tuesdays.
Well, there was a Ravens Wednesday game, right? Last year.
Maybe that game was Monday, but it was supposed to be Thursday. Something weird happened.
It was
with
something
the Patriots.
Extraordinarily weird. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know in the short term what you do about this, but I do know, under normal circumstances, I would chalk it up to these are just things that happen. This is the sport. It's luck, but you are on high alert with this team given how frequently it's happened to them.
Guy, who doesn't like a Wednesday 1:00 Chiefs Patriots or Ravens Browns at 2:00 on a Tuesday?
but like on 3 days notice, that's what I'm looking for. I want a surprise NFL Wednesday game.
I don't know if that's ever happened again.
I love when the element of surprise is there for the coaching staffs. Like they've only been practicing for Tuesday, since Tuesday for Tyreek Hill. They thought they were going to be playing the Falcons this week.
Year decided to play UCLA, wasn't it? Like Friday night, and they played them Sunday morning.
Played them Sunday morning at 9 a.m.
Yeah, they lost. Didn't go well.
At 9 a.m. at the Rose Bowl.
They were my sleeper to win the division.
They were a lot of people loved Cal last year.
Luckily, that Pac-12 season even count really.
I view it it's difficult for me to view the defending with all. I love Oregon. All the defending Pac-12 champs as the Ducks. After remember Washington couldn't even play in the championship game.
Yeah, some weird shit was going on.
John, let's tell the people about wineaccess.com/ham. Wineaccess.com/ham gets you 20% off and access to one of the greatest collections of wine you can find anywhere on the internets.
Guy, wineaccess.com 20% off. Here's the thing: sending people gifts puts smiles on faces. Alcohol also puts smiles on people's faces. Imagine if you could combine the two. Send alcohol as a gift, because wineaccess.com. Only 1 in 18 bottles on average makes it to wineaccess.com/ham. Right? That's just because they have such a stringent deciding factor to get on the website because they only have the best. And when I'm talking the best, I'm not talking like $500 bottles of wine. You can find that if you're looking for it. You can also find $15, $20, $30 bottles of wine. Send a dad, send a brother, send a college roommate, send your wife or girlfriend. She doesn't even know what's coming. Like, honey, something's at the door. And then all of a sudden, 6 bottles of Cab or Pinot, whatever she likes, she'll be happy. You might get lucky that night because of wineaccess.com/ham on us. You can thank us later. You don't even need to thank us. Just go use the website.
Yeah.
That's enough thanking.
That's right. I don't know anything about wine, but the beauty is every bottle that you get comes with a breakdown, tells you about the bottle, tells you what it's good with, use it with fish, cheese, whatever. So you can be sending it to somebody who doesn't know, and it's a little educational as well, but I'm with you. To be able to send, and I've done it a few times, you've done it a few times, like 6 bottles with the 20% off. There's also a point where it's not that hard to get to the free shipping. So you can basically, you pick the right, but you could end up sending like 6 bottles of wine to somebody for around $100, which is a pretty significant gift for not as significant an investment. trust me, as someone who has sent it and gotten the thank you, as have you blow someone's mind when you throw them 6 bottles of wine. And you don't have to send them 6. You can send them 1 bottle, 2 bottles. You can order it for yourself. Father's Day is coming up. You mentioned that, so that's a great option. But, we're big fans of wineaccess.com/ham.
Wineaccess.com/ham. Go use it. 20% off. 20% off.
Go check them out. All right. So, ready to dive into the next discussion?
Yep.
Okay, we'll do 3, 2, 1 again. It happens to be Wine Access. Here we go. 3, 2. Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like. We appreciate it.
Yep. Check out the podcast below in the description. Subscribe.
How about our friends at wineaccess.com/ham, John?
Love these guys. 20% off. 20% off, Guy. Wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off. Send some bottles to some people.
Okay, so here's the deal. We have to, sometimes in trying times, John, you have to have a sense of humor. Not that this is funny, but we thought we would rank Niners players by the injuries that would be the most devastating to this team. And I think part of what makes it interesting this year for this group is that Jimmy Garoppolo historically has been hurt, but would he be on the list of the top 5 most devastating injuries to this franchise? And I think the debate probably comes in around number 5. But would you agree with this? In some order, these 4 guys, Kittle, Bosa, Trent Williams, and Fred Warner, would you agree or would you argue with any of that?
I'm in.
Or would you put Jimmy?
I like it.
I mean, the fact that Trey Lance is on your roster, obviously in any given year, you don't. Jimmy Garoppolo playing well is probably the best thing for this team this year. But given that you have a quarterback who you're pretty heavily invested in, a big part of your future behind him, maybe you could weather that. It's hard to know. I mean, we're talking about a rookie who played 1 game in the last 2 years at the FCS level.
Yeah, I think one thing that makes the Niners unique relative to a lot of good teams, like let's just bring up like 4. The Bucks, Seattle, hell, the Cowboys. Yeah, they might not even be good, but I mean, they have a and the Packers. It's always like, well, if Dak goes down, well, if Russell goes down, yeah, you're fucked. Like once you start paying a guy 35, 40, and he's a Pro Bowl quarterback, it's like, what about our backup? Yeah, that's not the sport, right? It's like Bill Polian used to always say in the Colts building, if Peyton goes down, it's all a moot point. None of this matters. That's where it makes the Niners a little unique is they were very Jimmy dependent the last 4 years, right? Definitely once he got here, they weren't until he showed up, but those next 3 years, and 2 of them, he just disappeared and it was a disaster. It does feel like just with the reinforcements, you just got 2 bites at the apple, right? Like if Jimmy were to go down, it's not over. If Trey were to have an injury and Jimmy was healthy, you'd be fine because Trey might not be playing anyway. Not that that'd be good, but their situation, like for the Rams, you can just look in their division. If Stafford went down, if Russell goes down, or Kyler Murray goes down, it's over for those teams, like It was for the Niners last year. This year, the Niners just have it's going to be a one-off situation this one season where they got 2 guys, right? There's no if Stafford goes down, we got what was the guy's name? John Wolford. Like is
he still there? Probably. I mean, McVay.
Yeah, he's there. McVay did mention, I think, with Kingsbury or in one of those that the play call that he sent him on the run that it got him killed. He's like, that was on me. Now, I didn't know he was going to dive head first, but I was like, I thought he died. But I think he's alive now and he's a backup. But they're all in on Stafford. And that will be the case. Like once Jimmy gets traded this offseason, like once, potentially, right? Trey Lance will be number 1 on the list.
Yeah, he's not going to be on the roster for $22 or $27 million, Jimmy Garoppolo in 2022.
No.
So you only get that luxury, if you want to call it that, once. But, okay, so for that reason, normally your quarterback would be in your top 5. You could argue this year it's hard. I mean, my first reaction, John, was the next guy on that list, I'd put Ayuk. I think he's got kind of the next highest ceiling just in terms of being a dynamic playmaker for them.
Well, you want to just rank 1 through – let's just rank the guys you listed because I have I know who my number
Kittle
1 is. 1? No, because he's been hurt. Like, I've seen them operate without him, and they can function. Now, he's their best player, but I'm not saying I'm rooting for him to go out, but they've managed before. You can run the ball still. You could throw it if the wide receivers are healthy. I think we saw last year with Nick Bosa, it dramatically alters everything because he is a superstar pass rusher. So if you're going to rank this list, think of it just the most important positions. Well, if a quarterback's not on this list, the second most important position is the pass rusher, and he's a guy that last year I think a lot of people thought like 15-sack season coming off his baller rookie year, and then he disappeared, and it just wasn't the same. Like he is a difference maker, right? Like even Trent Williams. Like to me, Trent Williams is high on the list more for the money they gave him. We've seen like Joe Staley got hurt and they were able to patchwork it.
Yeah, see, I don't know if they could. I don't, because it's a twofold deal. He helps you run the football and he protects your quarterback, Trent Williams.
Yeah, so to me, the argument at number one would be between Bosa and Trent Williams. It would probably be 1A, 1B in some order.
Yeah, I think a big part of this is
because their defensive coordinator's gone too. So you're asking because last year their defense was good, but Saleh's not around.
Yeah. I think part of it, and this year it's not to you and I about Super Bowl. In a Super Bowl year, I think you could argue it's Kittle because he's a top 15 receiver in the league when he's right. That's what he was 3 years ago, and one of the top blockers in the league. So he's what George Kittle is in some ways a two-way offensive player, right? He's very rare in that regard. But yeah, I mean, if you said everyone else is healthy, they're way more equipped to handle Kittle, maybe way more strong than they would be to handle Bosa. I agree with that.
Well, I mean, really, their 4 players that you're listing are complete all-around superstars. Like Trent Williams is elite in the passing game, elite in the run game. Kittle, same. Fred Warner, same. Like he's the guy covering tight ends and running backs, and he's making all the tackles in the run game, right? And then who am I leaving out? And Bosa, same thing. Run game, pass game. Trent Williams, Bosa. I mean, I would go in some order. Trent Williams, Bosa, one of those guys won. I might put Kittle under Warner just because, like, I don't remember games without Warner, and he dominates.
I think the case for that would be just take a line and put above that line your top-tier players on each side of the football. And right now there's 2 on defense, right? And there's 3 on offense, 4 if Mostert's healthy. I mean, on offense, because I do put Ayuk.
But he's never. He's already hurt.
It's true. But I'm just saying, who are your tier 1 players on offense? Trent Williams, George Kittle. I would put Ayuk there based on what I think he can become. So
you're a little quicker to anoint than myself.
He's got to be healthy. But I think if he is, I think he's a tier, like for them, a tier 1 kind of playmaker.
Yeah.
So I
wouldn't put him there, but I'd say he has the opportunity to get there.
I know you
Juszczyk's been pretty important for him.
I mean, there so many guys are critical. Like this is what we've talked about with them. I think you could make the case. I know you're not going to like this, Jason Verrett at 5, just based on the lack of depth they have at cornerback. I thought it felt like such a bonus when he was healthy all year last year, for them to have one of those spots, one of those cornerback spots settled. And I remember was it the Seahawks game? It's like, oh, did Jason Verrett just get seriously injured? And he ended up coming back in the game. And I thought, like, what are they going to do if this guy's out? I think the domino effect of an injury to him
they
is
did draft
pretty
a couple guys.
They did, but we don't know how good, if they're ready to start as NFL corners yet.
No, but I mean, I think it's fair to say both of them throughout the season are going to get their opportunities to play.
Yeah.
Because Verrett, I would say last year is more of an outlier than I'm expecting him to miss some games.
I know. And
Mosley, I mean, I'll give Sherman credit. He nailed the Mosley evaluation. He was in on him early, and he's back, and he's their starting corner, but he is an undrafted free agent. He's kind of an overachiever. Like, I just seeing those 2 guys at practice from Michigan and Oregon, that just have some physical characteristics. Like, I think the Niners, part of the draft, you don't know which ones. You just hope one of those guys becomes someone that you feel can just be a functional starter, even as a rookie. Like, it's the way the NFL works, right? Those guys, you're going to need one of those two. One of those 2 guys is going to end up playing a lot. And maybe both of them do because that one guy gets exposed and the other guy comes in for him. But
this is what I'm saying is there's just so much. If you got a full year out of Jason Verrett, that would be one of the most significant things that could happen in terms of
it'd be a big deal.
Debo?
I'd say Kyle health scare would be devastating.
Who?
Every once in a while, coaches just like, I had a health scare, I got to miss a couple games. Like the Niners.
Did you see the Eagles had to cart a coach off? I think just like
dehydration
or heat wave, whatever, heat stroke or something like that, but not a stroke.
It'd be one of those like, hey, I got to step away for a month, some health scares. Like that would be, they couldn't overcome that.
That would be significant.
Like certain teams, like the Ravens they would just, not saying ideally I'm not rooting for any coach to go away, but there are some teams that would be, even Seattle, like with Pete just kind of stomping around, right? Like McVay, Kyle, if your head coach is a position, basically Yeah. Well, we really get to know. Okay, Eric, time for you to call the plays.
Oh, Bieniemy, yeah, you're right. Also could
Be
be
his
an
moment.
opportunity. Who would you put fifth? I'm leaning Ayuk. Or you get to Garoppolo. You can go, this is a little much here for Trey Lance now.
Yeah, I'm cool with Ayuk. Because I think you're right. What he showed last year, he has a better opportunity probably than Debo to become, like a top 15 wide receiver in his time. Mm-hmm. Debo's just more of a unique outlier, really good player, but I don't think anyone's ever going to be talking about him like a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And I'd say so far through 2 years, you couldn't put him on a list of guys not going to get hurt. He gets hurt, right?
Which would feel like found money if you played 17 games, 16 games.
Part of also being a good team, I mean, I'm not some diehard special teams guy here, but your punter and your kicker, when you're just playing big-time games against big-time teams, like those two guys, the dude from Utah and Robbie Gould, part of usually good teams, their special teams unit, their kicker and punter are good. Yeah. I like Mitch Wisnowski.
Yeah, I do too. The other thing with Ayuk is Brandon Ayuk, you didn't draft this guy in the second round, even the third round, the fourth round. You drafted him in the first round. So, to talk about him like you want him to become a tier 1, top 15 receiver in the NFL, he's your first round pick. That's the way we should talk about first round picks.
I think we talk about top 15 picks different than we do in the 20s. We just assume a pick in the 20s is closer to a guy picked 50. Well, reading about why the Ravens, once the Ravens got Bateman, they weren't that interested in Julio. And you're like, yeah, really? The guy, they drafted him in the first round. I hope they're all in on this guy, right? Of course. It's not even that crazy to think about.
Maybe it's because receivers just miss so much in the first round that we protect ourselves against situations
like that. But I feel if you're drafted between 25 and 32, we don't really consider you a first-round pick. You don't get the same hype as Kinlaw. They're all in on Kinlaw. Well, if they're all in on Brandon.
If you're a quarterback drafted in that range, we it's a value pick, right?
Yeah.
We don't view you like a top, because if you're a quarterback who really is a number 1 level pick, you go in the top 10.
Unless you're in Philly, then they're all over you. If you're Jalen Reagor, pick 22, they approach you like you're the third pick in the draft. Well, you better produce.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no doubt. But part of that is Jalen Reagor. There's guys that got drafted after Jalen Reagor that were better than him last year. Brandon Ayuk and Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson went after Jalen Reagor. Thank God for Brandon Ayuk, he went after Justin Jefferson. But, I saw a stat today.
Part of Ayuk, too, is he's compared to just his whole crew, right? That whole group. He's just – those guys are going to keep shining.
But he's been good compared to that group, right?
No, he has. Jefferson's the only –
Henry Ruggs did not have a very good year. You're saying Jefferson's the one that was better than him last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw CD say something, went on my timeline, get ready, because it's on this year. I was damn, I bet this guy. I like that guy.
You know what's funny is you and I were talking about CD the other day.
Would you trade Brandon Ayuk right now for CD Lamb?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
CD was a dominant force on the Habee Habes DraftKings team last year. And then I saw a few things over the last probably 2 weeks, CD Lamb's about to have a breakout year. And in my head, I'm like, didn't he break out as a rookie? Wasn't he incredible? I saw Roto World. He was in 58.7% of his team snaps last year. So he wasn't he could play. He's going to play more snaps this year, CD Lamb, than he did last year.
Well, there's a decent chance he's their best wide receiver. And Amari had a career. Amari was good last year. Because Amari was a good DraftKings guy too. Not a Hall of Famer, but yeah, he's making a lot of cash. Zeke's making 18. I mean, they got a lot of money going along around, Dak, Zeke, Amari, even Derrick Henry. Because I was looking at, they're paying him a lot of money. Derrick Henry makes $10 million this year. And given his production, any team in the league would pay for 12, 15 touchdowns and 2,000 yards from scrimmage $10 million, right? Is Derrick Henry at $10 million given his production one of the better deals in the league? To me, running back.
Where's his holdout?
When they're quote unquote, well, remember he got paid last year, but his running back money was part of Zeke's was guaranteed $15 million for 3 straight years. The reason Zeke's a bad deal is because he's not running for 1,700 yards. If Zeke was running for 1,700 yards and 10 touchdowns, I don't think people would be talking shit. People talk shit about running back contracts when you either get hurt or not as good. If you produce at a high level, you think the Titans mind paying Derrick Henry $10 million a year? No problem. No different than Niners. Like, I'll give George Kittle $14 million and Zenny as long as he's getting 1,200 and a bunch of touchdowns. It's about your production and your money, not necessarily paying the position. And I think the pushback from the analytic crew is always, well, the risk of those guys at running back at any moment, it can, like last year, Saquon, it's just like he's out, right? But like Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, I know this as someone that plays them a lot in daily fantasy, as someone who just watches as much football as humanly possible on Sundays and just watches a lot of like the top players. I always watch those guys and be like, I don't think their team regrets paying them like $12-13 million, right? Because they kick everyone's ass.
The chat on YouTube, John, can't believe. Mr. Corey says, CeeDee Lamb over Ayuk, cry emoji. Peter says, we all know Ayuk is better than CeeDee, Judy, Ruggs, and Rager. Well, we can go ahead and move Ruggs, Rager, even Jerry Judy and Teddy Bridgewater, John. Great chemistry at OTAs was the headline I read today. So watch out. 12
With who?
drops.
Oh,
Jerry Judy and Teddy Bridgewater. They're about to become a combination unparalleled.
I feel like CeeDee Lamb had just a quiet season. He had 74 catches last year.
I thought he was incredible last year. Honestly, 74 feels low for what I watched.
To me, the number that feels low is 5. I felt like
5
I watched
TDs.
10 touchdowns. He had a bunch of sweet ones like over DBs in the corner. I don't know. Maybe Justin Jefferson. What was Justin Jefferson's final
And look, just
line?
like Ayuk did it with backup, so did CeeDee Lamb.
Like, what would you guess Justin Jefferson's line was?
Without having looked in a while, 91. The yards are always hard for me to guess. 14, 30, and 11 touchdowns?
Yeah, 88, 14, 7.
Okay.
I mean, the 88 and 1,400 are pretty like, wow. Right? Touchdowns are a little bit like, are they going to you in the red zone and stuff?
Yeah.
They have Dalvin and they have Thielen, who's Thielen, another good DraftKings. A lot of good wide receivers in the league, guy.
Thielen had
That's part of it. When you're a bust wide receiver, and I don't even mean a bust, like a Rager type, it's like above average players produce at pretty high levels at wide receiver. So it's like when you're only catching 30, 40 balls, and that's a good thing about Debo and Ayuk, I think, for the Niners, is clearly those guys have the talent and they can produce, and you've seen them make big plays, right? Even Debo was battling injuries, but that Super Bowl run, he had incredible plays in the Super Bowl, leading up to the Super Bowl, down the stretch of that season. Like, I need to know that you can make plays. And sometimes I think making plays, it feels like their numbers are bigger than they are. You're like, God, it felt like the guy did everything. And you look, you're like, he had 57 catches on the season? Because if you have 15 enormous plays through those 55 catches, it can feel a lot bigger.
Yeah.
That's why Justin Jefferson, I'm with you. I would have guessed like 14 touchdowns. But it's, I mean,
half of
7
them were
touchdowns
60-yard bombs. Well, how many did Thielen have? 12?
I guess, yeah. I mean, he has do you know what Thielen's king of? Multiple 3-score games.
Down 24.
He had 14 touchdowns last year.
You have his game.
He has a lot of multiple touchdown games. Thielen is, I like that guy. Yeah, game log. Just nerding out on Adam Thielen.
Well, I mean, to me, the whole offseason can be us just reading.
1, 2,
just
3,
guessing stats.
4. He had 4 multi-touchdown games. I mean, that's 8 right there, right? You have 4 multi-touchdown games. That's a pretty big deal. Their offense, Minnesota. I've had some Vikings fans DM me like, "You think we're going to be back?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not betting against you because your defense can't be as bad as it was, and your offense is just good."
I felt like they had to come from behind a lot last year too, right? Maybe I just think of that Packer game.
Yeah, I just think their defense was horrendous. They couldn't cover anybody.
Real quick, and I don't bring this up. Sometimes we acknowledge this stuff. Sometimes we don't. Jorge says, dudes are getting pretty fucking annoying with all the promos. Do it once at the beginning. So I don't mind re-explaining what we're doing here. This is the podcast that we're doing. Some of the videos we do get cut up into smaller videos. So the small video has a little ad at the beginning of it. It's just instead of doing this whole thing recorded and then posting it later, we like to do it live. So sometimes we do YouTubes that are not podcast, and we don't do all the little ads in them. And sometimes we do an example like today where it is a podcast and we do some of the little ads in it. So that's the difference. But I don't mind re-explaining myself what we're doing here, because what we're doing, it's the way we do it in terms of doing it all together and then cutting it up later, I think is pretty unique. So people are unfamiliar with it. I'm happy to share what we're up to.
Yeah, Jorge, food doesn't just show up. You got to pay for it. And this is how we
like
pay for
wineaccess.com. No, I'm kidding.
room and board, buddy.
Speaking of food, John, you know what goes great with food? Wineaccess.com/ham. All right. Next up, Rodgers didn't show. We're going to do a video about that. Among other things, as it relates to the NFC. Maybe we should do one day. We just do a show where the whole show is just us guessing stat lines. No one goes to Pro Football Reference ahead of time, and then we just guess stat lines the whole show.
Feels like that'd be a tune-out about 10 minutes in.
I don't know. I'd watch it. Maybe I wouldn't. Okay, here we go.
We got about 2 more months to kill before even training camp starts, so
we do have one ace.
I guess a little less than 2 months because
I think it's 93 days until the season because I saw somebody posted today the video of Terrell Pryor's 93-yard run.
Training camp usually gets going strong like July 29th, 30th, 31st. So we're June 8th. About a month and 3/4.
One day at a time.
Yeah, just
things will happen.
Along.
Everyone just be patient. Things will happen. Stories will
time
pop
to be
up.
with your family and just relax a little.
Look, I'm just saying news happens. We're here when it does, and we're here when it doesn't. We're just here. We're here. You can count
That's
on.
true.
You can count on ham.
We're
Blue
here.
collar ham. All right. So our next topic. You ready to do that?
Rodgers? Yeah.
Rodgers. Okay. Make a little note. All right, here we go with that video / topic in 3, 2. Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
Start it again. Your video got a little sideways there. Here we go. 3, 2. Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Yep, podcast below in the description. Check it out.
And check out our friends at wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off.
Wineaccess.com, 20% off. Wineaccess.com, 20% off.
There's nothing not to love. So, mandatory camp started for the Packers, John. Aaron Rodgers did not show up. That means that, what's his name on the Internet's contractually obligated to tell us how much Aaron Rodgers fines would be in normal people money. Darren Ravel be like $269, which is not nothing. I drove through a red light the other day, and it had the $500 red light violation, $500, and I went, oh. And then I did a little Googling. It says Berkeley actually has unplugged all their lights, all their cameras, so it's just still up. But now I'm on edge waiting for a $500 fine. You know, makes you think. I don't know. Anything over like 200 makes me think. So 269, that's with the normal family. It's not nothing that Aaron's being fined. But Aaron also didn't show up for the voluntary, which would have been like a $500,000 bonus or something. Maybe it was $250, massive. So Aaron's dug in is the point here, John. The Seahawks, all their guys, DK, got together. All the veterans. DK said on Tuesday that the Seahawks weren't going to show up. And then the veterans got together, and they did decide to show up for voluntary OTAs. We got the Niners. We'll see what their next couple of weeks look like. The Rams trying to break a new quarterback in. If you're Brady right now in the NFC, you're just kind of sitting back, I think, and feeling pretty good about yourself. NFC is – people. They got some teams got some things to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the AFC is much better than the NFC, just based on the depth of their teams, like the depth of their powerhouse teams. I just think there's a lot of uncertainty because even with the NFC West, the Niners were a powerhouse 2 years ago, but for 3 out of the 4 years, they have just battled injuries. We just talked about that. The Rams in Seattle, when they have got to the dance, have just been flawed teams, right? Now we'll see if that changes. Are Seattle better this year? They're better on offense, more well-rounded on offense. Are the Rams, is their quarterback way better? But like we've seen when like the Packers were by far, to me, the best foe for Brady, and Brady beat them. And now if Rodgers isn't there, we all know they're screwed. Like I keep going like, how's this thing going to end? They don't have to find him. Is what I read today for mandatory minicamp. Training camp's different. They have no choice.
$50,000 a day they have to fine them. Yeah,
mandatory minicamp, they can waive the fine, which I would imagine if you're trying to get him back, like Aaron Rodgers will not be fined.
But
Would
John,
you guess?
I would agree with that, but you can't give him the $500,000 he gave up by not showing up to voluntary OTAs. You're not giving him that.
No. I don't mean you give. He doesn't get the bonus, but I don't think you fine him for missing mandatory minicamp,
which is up to $93,000 for missing all 3 days of minicamp. My point is, if giving him his money back mattered to him, he would have shown up for voluntary OTAs. Like, he doesn't like giving him his fine money back. I don't think it's going to affect Aaron.
Yeah, but here's the question, because Tom, I think the last couple of years in New England, did not show up for these either. Missed the entire offseason and didn't care. And I would imagine New England and Robert did not find him. Tom did show up, though, whenever, July 28th is when the veterans show up. Tom was always there to pick up his key or wherever they stayed or however they did it in New England. Do you think the first day of practice at Green Bay with the veterans, he's on the bike riding out to the practice field?
I don't think he is.
So you think he's no shows? Aaron Rodgers holds out during training camp? Because I still am on the fence with that one and still lean that he does, which feels kind of crazy. Like, what was this all for? But maybe it wasn't really for anything. I don't know. Because if he doesn't show up,
if it's to get traded,
the NFC is obviously Brady. They are the power, but it's pretty freaking wide open. Like, the thing with the AFC, what I've been saying is, like, obviously the Chiefs, the Bills are awesome. The Dolphins are solid. New England's going to be better. We know that the AFC North has 3 playoff teams. Fuck, the Titans just added Julio Jones. They won the division. The Colts just got Carson Wentz. They could be good. I mean, it's just the Chargers, people think they're like a sleeper, Super Bowl level team if the coach is good. The Raiders are just solid.
Herbert showed back up with long hair.
So, I mean, I don't think we talk about the NFC like we do, partly because the NFC has a division that no one takes seriously. The NFC North, no one knows the Bears. The Vikings were really bad. I think people just view the NFC West a little bit like the AFC North. Those beat each other up, and one team.
I would even add the NFC South with the Saints specifically the Saints, right? Who have just been in the mix every year. Yeah, Drew Brees is washed up. Yeah, Taysom Hill's not a quarterback. Yeah, they won 12 games last year. And Drew Brees was washed up, and Taysom Hill isn't a quarterback, and they still won 12 games.
I mean, there's a chance beside Tampa they don't have another double-digit win team, right, in the South. Panthers could win 6-7 games. Same with Atlanta. The Saints, I mean, they'll be good, right, just because the coach, the talent on the roster. But could this be a 9-8 season for them?
Such a weird number, 9-8. Such a weird record still. But
now, I do think I'm keeping an eye on Jameis. I think that one thing I read probably last week is that Sean Payton has been adamant that it's we have not named a starter. We will go into training camp. These two guys will battle it out. So that to your point, that's not you never want to be like that, right? You don't. Good teams don't have Seattle doesn't go. We'll just have an open. No, you want to have your quarterback, because if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any.
Especially
even though
is
he just saying that as Jameis the quarterback?
I mean, it feels the Saints are kind of in a college situation, right? Where you had your guy redshirting last year, but not redshirting. He was just a freshman or a sophomore, and it was clear, when Justin Herbert leaves, Tyler Shuck is the guy that takes over. But we're going to have a competition, right? That's what happened in Oregon last year.
Do you know actually a better analogy for college? Because he's a starter, like Kyler Murray started at Texas A&M. He transferred. And it was one of those the new rule. He had to redshirt because that's what happens when he transferred. And it kind of reset and get his priorities right. Like, if you were at Oklahoma, I bet that year with Kyler Murray, there was just reporters writing sweet stories about this guy.
Yeah.
They think he's going to be awesome. He's playing baseball. They love him. Kind of like what was going on with Jameis. And now it's his time to shine. Because he was, in fairness to Jameis, the number 1 overall pick, national champion at Florida State. His resume is... got a little weird that last year with the pick sixes.
But he's one of the most unique pro athletes we have, given his skill set.
But he's good. I mean, let me rephrase that. He's talented.
He has the ability to be a top half NFL quarterback. Maybe even top 15.
It is
I guess that would be top half.
It is a major, major curveball for the NFC if Rodgers somehow pushes his way out of there.
Well,
right.
Yeah, and part of that depends, where does he push himself to? Does he push himself to the AFC?
I think that's where he'd have to push himself to, right?
Well, that's his 2 teams that he's got on his list apparently are there.
Yeah.
If that list is still active, or if he
it's weird with the list. Where's the list gone? Why aren't we talking about that?
I don't know. But why do you think I kind of mentioned it, but give me the theory you gave me before we started the podcast on why the Seahawks vets got together and decided to show up.
Well, I think it's human nature. If you're in a high-level industry and you see other people in your industry that you're competing against, and in most normal people's lives, it's for, sales or business. In football, it's for wins. These guys live on social media. Like the first thing Kevin Durant did this morning was get on social media to talk shit about Jay Williams. They just spend a lot of time on social media. Don't blame them. They got a lot of followers. It's where they spend a lot of their time. Can you imagine the clips, the Seattle guys, like DK Metcalf? You know what DK Metcalf likes doing? Running. He literally did it to try to make the Olympics. Like, you don't think you want to practice? You start seeing all these clips from the Rams, from the Niners, from Tampa. Like, are we getting past? So you have a call, if you're Bobby Wagner, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, like, hey, guys, can we do something productive? Because clearly I look around the league, and definitely to the teams that are our equals or the teams that we view ourselves as having to beat, they're all practicing. Wouldn't that, if you and I, like, it'd be the equivalent when we were in radio, when we take vacation, someone fills your spot, and you're like, well, what if this guy does better?
We filled in
it's
on
a
somebody
human
else's
reaction,
vacation, right?
Yeah. Are you getting past? And certain people, I would imagine young guys it doesn't even cross their mind. But I bet a veteran guy, anyone that had been in the league more than 3 or 4 years and had seen guys come in and out, it's just like, whoa. Because you know what forces guys to get cut? Losing. Like, well, we don't want to have any disadvantage here. That's how I would feel if I was a 30-year-old guy that had been on Seattle for the last 6 or 7 years. I'd be like, is there some way that we could be productive for a couple weeks as a team and get something out of this? Because clearly you do benefit from – now, Pete, remember, Pete and Harbaugh over the last decade have gotten draft picks removed for padding up. And I think Pete, they banned pressing at practice. Well, they run the press, their corners, and they got in trouble. So it's like, hey, Pete, can you fucking meet us in the middle here? And just, Brian Flores' thing was they were sandals. So like you can wear sandals at practice, meaning that like for sure I will not ask you to do anything that would be more than sandals. Like that was his, the way he preached to his team. But it worked. It got everyone to show up. But my whole take about was this: every human being in life compromises in some form or fashion. Like what Brian Flores is smart. Like if his guy's like, hey, we're not showing up. Well, I got to meet you somewhere in the middle, even if it's closer to your middle than it is my middle, just because I want to. I'm better off teaching and just getting around the guys and just building this rapport because it matters. And I give Seattle credit. To me, that shows like, obviously they do. I mean, they've been winning for a decade. Like they have enough high-level guys to know, like, I don't know if this is the right idea.
Well, I think it becomes pretty clear.
You agree with that? Like,
yes.
Their guys are smarter than they probably get credit for.
Well, I don't know that they don't get credit. I mean, I think it's pretty basic where you go, we're not showing up for OTAs. This is part of a boycott. And then you look around and you go, well, is anyone else doing the boycott? It doesn't look like anyone else is boycotting.
We're like, Aaron Rodgers.
This isn't even a boycott. This is just some people aren't showing up, but there's no boycott. Like Kyle Juszczyk just doesn't have to be there, not there. He's not. Is he boycotting or is he just not there? Trent Williams just boycotts like everyone together. That's what a boycott is, right? If I'd say I'm not buying from Amazon anymore.
Rodgers is boycotting them.
No, Rodgers is holding out. Rodgers isn't boycotting.
Demanding a trade.
Like if I individually go like, everybody stop buying from Amazon and everyone stop, that's a boycott. If I stop and no one else stops, it's just, I'm not buying from Amazon. I can't call that a boycott. I'm boycotting. Like, okay. It's not fine. But I think they looked around and went, what are we doing this for? We're not getting any of the advantages of a collective power, right? The collective is what has the power. So the collective isn't boycotting, so we're getting nothing out of it. And we're getting behind, potentially. Yeah. And like you said, DK, some of these guys probably just want to go play. Go have some fun.
Why wouldn't you play? You're good at football. Like, don't.
And I remember Jeff Schwartz said this to me a month ago. He's like, part of it, you just want to go see your buddies. You want to go hang out.
You get free food. Do you know what you get free food? When you see these guys at a playoff hockey game or a playoff NBA game in a box or, in the front row drinking, Those guys didn't purchase those tickets on SeatGeek, which I'm hoping to get back on the podcast. Been working the back channels on that one. They got those tickets handed to them. I don't know, by the fucking team. Like
They didn't wait in the line to get into the parking lot.
No, they get life's good. It's incredible.
Ingress.
It's incredible.
I do think if you look, and someone made this comment in the YouTube chat, we went through the teams, but if you just look at the NFC and go, okay, now take Aaron Rodgers out, who the hell is going to play in the NFC Championship game against the Bucs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the NFC West teams would be my pick. Whoever the best team is in the NFC West. Because last year, if the Packers didn't exist, it would have been the Rams.
Yeah, I think the Rams, for
or
me,
Saints.
would probably be the pick right now.
Saints.
If Aaron's not around. If Aaron is around, I'm not really sure if Aaron going to stick it to the Packers again by being great. So Peter King suggested they can agree to trade him in 2022. I don't think Aaron would play under those circumstances.
Maybe. His team is pretty loaded.
So that you're the Packers, you win the championship, you trade him just because that's what we agreed to last year.
Yeah, I do think he's kind of stuck. But that if they are able to figure it out, it's a bad thing. I'd even say it's a bad thing for Tampa. Like, I don't think most guys in that Green Bay locker room don't believe they can't beat Tampa Bay, right?
I thought they were going to beat Tampa Bay last year. I don't believe that this year.
Well, yeah, I mean, their quarterback hates everybody.
Well, I mean, even if he's back, like, I gave the Packers the benefit of the doubt last year. It was, I mean, they could have. I didn't watch that game and think they were incapable. Not the second game. The first game, they were definitely incapable.
I do think things change fast, though. Like, watching the Bucks Nets, I would have said that I don't know if the Bucks are going to win, but this thing's going to be just an old school 90s, go 7 games. It's been blowouts. Most of the NBA playoffs have been blowouts. Like, it's
most teams who get
where are your good
games
games
pull it off. How many possessions did Giannis guard KD? Do we have a number on that?
I mean, I wasn't that.
Somebody tell me. I mean, my thing is just there's like 3 humans on the earth that look like those two. You would think, you'd guard them. One of them would guard the other.
Again, maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's me living in the past that it actually didn't happen when I felt like it did. I did feel like when we were growing up, the other guy would just be like, "I'll take that guy." I'm taking him. Like, hey, who's your best offensive player? Well, we got fucking Clyde Drexler. Well, Michael or Scotty is checking him. This one is like, well, he can't be on him. He's got to rest. It's like, well, your games are blowouts. You're talking to someone who's watched the NBA for 25 years and loved the product. Every time I turn it on, this is the second round of the playoffs. Blowouts.
I thought the Suns game was
good till like the mid to the third quarter. The first half was excellent.
Time for everybody to come around on my guy, Chris Paul, John. We're getting close. Yeah. Getting close to be undeniable. Chris Paul's a winner. John, let's tell the people about NetSuite. NetSuite.com/ham. You're running your business on QuickBooks. QuickBooks, more like quicksand. The bigger your company grows, the faster you sink with outdated software that just can't keep up. Go to netsuite.com/ham right now for special financing. Some would say financing.
Yep, they help you automate your key business process and close your books in a fraction of the time. Think days, not weeks. In fact, 93% of organizations increase visibility, control over their business since making the switch from QuickBooks to NetSuite. Right now, NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program only for people that are ready to graduate to the big leagues and get away from QuickBooks to NetSuite. Head to NetSuite, NetSuite.com/ham. NetSuite.com/ham. Special financing for you want to graduate from NetSuite to NetSuite. NetSuite.com/ham.
NetSuite.com/ham. One other thing. We got a bunch of other stuff we want to hit here. I was trying to think, I'm sure you saw this. For those of you who are not in the Bay Area, or maybe you don't watch baseball, or the Giants, Dwayne Kuiper is, and I think Mike Kruk are probably as closely associated with any team, with any fan base, or as beloved as any 2 team broadcasters are with any team in the country. I mean, you got a few guys around the country that are probably in the conversation, like Joe Castiglione with the Red Sox, who's been around forever. I turned on a Red Sox game the other day watching Nesson, and the second you hear his voice, you're like, yes, this is what it's supposed to sound like. But I don't think anyone's really above those two. And Dwayne's had he announced this week, Monday, he's got some health issues. He's going to miss some games, needs chemotherapy. And so a lot of people have been wishing him well, as we would. As we do. But I was thinking, what could we add just to – here's what I would add about Dwayne Kuiper. Are you yelling at people on the chat?
I responded to a chat. I'm listening.
Clay's definitely the guy that came to mind. I think Dwayne. One thing I would say about Dwayne is like he's as cool as you think he is. I haven't hung out with him. I think we probably interviewed him a few times on radio, but over the years I've been around the park quite a bit. Whether I was many years ago doing the Grizzly games, I would come to AT&T at the time sometimes, or when we were doing radio and you would just pop around, or when I was doing some A's games and I would go to the ballpark. Just over the years, going to the ballpark, not every day. Was never, a beat writer, wasn't an everyday guy. But I'd go around enough that I would say hey to Dwayne here and there. Every time I saw him. And he'd always say hi. But I would just watch him sometimes. And he's just, he holds court wherever he goes. And that would be the one thing I would say about the guy. Everything you think he is, or what people say Dwayne Kuiper is, in terms of just a guy, is true. He is. He's every bit as cool as you think he is.
Yeah, I've only lived in one other major city that had big-time teams, and they did not have this. Gary Matthews, is that his name with the Phillies? You hear that name? Matthews? I think he's like their play-by-play guy. He's good.
Tom McCarthy?
Maybe they had a different guy. Maybe it's McCarthy. I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. It wasn't synonymous with the team. I even think, and I was lucky enough when I was at Cal Poly.
Unless Gary Matthews Sr. wasn't. He might maybe an analyst, but.
Yeah, not the player. I thought the last guy's name was Matthews, but maybe it was McCarthy. That shows you. I don't even know. That when I was at Cal Poly, I worked at San Luis Country Club as a job, just make some money, and Kruk was a member there. And I was a nobody. Just a college kid, and he couldn't have been any cooler. You could just go up and talk to him, and he was awesome. I always would. And then you got to do what we do, and you got to meet them both. It's like they're synonymous. It's both of them. And the irony is, like, Dwayne getting sick, we're not quite sure what it is. Mike's been battling the disease that's been deteriorating kind of his just body and his ability to travel. And you just start kind of, like, when you read that, you just realize, like, Kruk and Kuip, someone had forwarded me a couple, like, within a month or 2 months, because I had tweeted something about the Giants, the Ashcon song. Remember when they won the World Series? But, like, Kruk and Kuip were as synonymous with that team as any player. And, they still are. They are just – and it's Kruk and Kuip. It's usually, like, one guy, right? Joe Starkey or
Vince
whoever.
Scully.
Yeah, Vince Scully. Or you go all around the country and do it. With the Giants, it's two guys. And it's like they're a tandem because they, like, work together. And now you just – with that, when I read that yesterday – it's just sad that you obviously hope he's going to be fucking okay. Same with Mike, that they just keeps battling the disease he has, which really sucks. That, it's just kind of sad thinking that these guys are not like a huge part of the Giants games. Obviously you get a guy like Barry, anyone will watch, but for the most part, that's not how baseball works. And there hasn't been another Barry since. That those guys are a huge part of the entertainment value of the team. Even to this day, like I end up watching more Giants than even I plan to, just because I'll watch those two guys.
The test, and I'm not talking just play-by-play here, just in anything you do. And I think we talked about this many years ago. We've had this conversation before, but anybody can do a live stream the night of the draft. Anybody can do a baseball game when it's Game 7 of the World Series. Now, not everyone does it the same. Like, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying they're great in the big moments. But part of what makes you great is you can't just be great in the big moments when the energy and the topics and all of the stuff is easy. But so much of baseball is it's 7-0 in the fourth inning at Coors Field in June. Like, those guys thrive when it's hard to be good. Then they also thrive when the moments are big. But I think that's part of what makes them special is you can turn it on and they're good no matter what. They're entertaining no matter what. They're unique no matter what. There's not many people like them. And I think people appreciate how unique they are. If you got them every day, maybe you don't.
I think they're a little less big nationally than like obviously Vin Scully, but even like Harry Carey and what's his name for the Brewers, like they became national stars. Part of it they did. Like, didn't Harry Carey do national stuff? Obviously Vince did. Vin did. These guys were just kind of local fucking rock stars. I mean rock stars.
I would say and I do this, just flip. There are some really good local broadcasts, but there are
the
some
Mets,
that are
the Mets is elite.
Mets is good. Cubs is very good. White Sox is there are some, but a lot of baseball is spent just trying to figure out what to say in the 5th inning of game 88.
Down 8-0.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't want to overstate that because these guys are also great when the moment's big.
But I think
that's
part
a big
of it,
part of them.
And I'm not trying to get like morbid or down, but just I lost my dad a couple years ago. These guys are older, and even when I was around the ballpark more, when we had the radio show, they were older. Like Mike was old when I met him at Cal Poly. Like these guys played for the Giants, right? Or were in the big leagues in the mid to late 70s and the 80s. Like these are just, it just kind of puts in perspective. Like, God, hopefully I really valued all my entertainment that they gave me, because I start getting nervous. Like, how much longer do I have these two in my life?
Yeah.
It was pretty jarring reading that. I remember the story that ESPN.com, someone wrote a long story about Kruk, and Larry Baer, his statement in there was like, these two guys, they have lifetime contract. They are the Giants. Do you remember that? There was a long article about the two of them, like when it was announced that Mike had the disease. And it was just like, God damn. I already missed these guys. They're not even gone. Yeah.
No, and again, the point is just an opportunity to say everything they get, every bit as cool as you think they are. And I'm not pretending to be. We're not pretending to like be hanging out with them, drinking beers or anything like that. But that's part of the point. Is like at a time when they would have no reason to know who you are. If you interacted with them, they treat everybody.
That's part of my hate toward Kapler. Is I don't think he's that cool. Like that's part of it. And I've grown up on cool around this guy. No, I know, but it's like Bochy, Flannery, who's kind of crazy, but those two guys,
extremely cool,
awesome. They're just, the Giants were cool. They are. Cool.
What else? A few other things here. What else? PGL's coming out swinging, John. They're at PGL. I think they started to smell the professional golf league. They started to smell like, Koepka and Bryson. They're after that PIP money. Well, don't worry, fellas. Don't forget, you don't have to do any of this stuff for PIP money if you're part of the Premier Golf League.
Well, what's the best part of basketball and baseball, right? When you sign a contract, the money's guaranteed. Golf is really like a poor man's football. Now, if you get big enough, you can make a lot from sponsors, but you actually have to play, and you're not guaranteed, even if you're the best player in the world, Dustin Johnson. Dustin Johnson missed the cut at the Masters. I mean, that doesn't happen in any other sport. It's not like he was injured, or he just missed the cut.
Rory missed the cut, like I mentioned earlier at the Open.
Justin Thomas, like these guys, you miss cuts. When you miss the cut, you don't get any money. This league guarantees you cash. The lowest amount you could earn is $2.7 million.
So now, for people that haven't followed it, set it up. It's 12 teams, a captain for each team, and 4 total players on each team.
And the captains get between $20 and $35 million. So if you have an unreal year in golf, I guess the FedEx can pump the money up a little bit, but if you don't win the FedEx Cup and you just handle your business, you probably make $7-8 million. So it's a lot of money. And then with sponsors, for the top guys, they're making $20-30 million. But this guarantees you $20-30 million, and you still get the sponsors, because that's what everyone says. Like, what about the sponsors? Well, they don't care. They'll just go wherever the top guys go, and people are watching.
Where the eyeballs.
That money is coming no matter what. If you could make your on-course earnings. If you could make $6 million, which most anyone watching this or listening, unless you're one of our super rich friends that also listens, and I don't even know if I know that many people making $5-6 million, but if you were, like, that's great. But if I told you could make, instead of having to like really grind for that 5, you'd still be grinding the same, but I'll quadruple your money. I don't know how you don't have to seriously consider that. And golf is unlike in football when they've tried it, or baseball. This is a little different because golf is kind of just a made-up tour, right? It's not like...
It's barnstorming.
Yeah.
You just travel in the country. It's a circus. You just play. You don't... there's not only one. Now, the thing you told me, like one thing that would hold me back is if I play in this thing, can I not play in the majors? But somehow you can still play in the majors, even though the PGA Tour would ban you.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
there would
the PGA
have to
Tour
be
said
some
you
legit.
get banned for life.
There would have to be some legit. And how much pull do the PGA Tour have in all 4 majors? And even like, okay, the players who the tour runs, right? That's the players. Could we take the players in the PGL, or the tour take? Like, does the PGA Tour just become the minor leagues?
I mean, the Masters can do whatever they want. We know the Masters can do whatever they want.
And they would.
But they might side with tradition over money.
But they would need the top players to play in their tournament. You can't have the Masters with like Ches Reavie leading it, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, they would just become top. The Masters is pretty unique, right? So the question is,
I would agree, but if their top group of guys, many of them that have won the Masters are a part of it, it's
the Masters. If anybody would try and throw its weight around, it'd be the Masters.
I just don't know if they would care as much as you. I think the people that would care would be like a PGA championship who is associated with the PGA Tour, who like that's where it gets weird fast.
Well, but yeah, so that would be the one where if it's a PGA, if the tour bans you, because that's the thing that I still don't. I've understood it once, I still don't fully get it. Like all these majors are not, like the FedEx Cup and the Masters are not kosher with one another, right? Like the FedEx Championship. I think that's a PGA Tour event, right? They don't like to cross-pollinate with some of the Masters promotional stuff. Like, it's weird. Like, not all these things. Not like Major League Baseball, which is all the games are run by Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's not all under the same umbrella.
It's very bizarre.
Well, unlike football, the teams are owned by individuals, right? They control the league, ultimately. The tour is run by the players. Like, for example, F1. I don't know enough about it. I would imagine F1 is ultimately controlled by the brands, right? The teams, Mercedes, Ferrari. Not like Lewis Hamilton doesn't actually, like he has pull because he's an elite driver, but he couldn't just start his own league and compete against them, right? Football, obviously not. In the PGA Tour, what makes it unique is the players do run the league. Now, they anoint the commissioner who helps obviously run all the logistic and the business part of it, but if they wanted, I think Jay Monahan's the guy's name, who's a PGA. If they wanted him gone, the players could kick him out, right? They can do whatever they want, ultimately. Now, he's in charge. Where it gets confusing is like where you make all this money now is through television rights. So that's where, but obviously the TV is just going to gravitate toward where people are going to watch. So they would just.
That's why, like, what do we just have? The PGA Championship?
Yeah.
Right. That's the PGA of America, which is different than the PGA Tour. Like they're contracted. That's on ESPN. That's different than the TV contract that puts the other stuff. Did the PGA Championship end on CBS though? I guess it did. See, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts,
which makes it ripe for the best players in the world to just pull away, to do whatever they want.
100%.
And still leverage that you need them. You can't ban these guys for life because you do need them to run your other events.
Well, there was just an incident, right? John Rahm. And you could say, should have got if you knew that you're going to still get tested and get contract traced, even if you don't want to get the vaccine, you should just get the vaccine on money alone. So I understand the argument that it was his fault. He created that. But the PGL would say you would never, even if you fail, we don't test. 2, your money's guaranteed. Like John Rahm just lost a lot of money, right? He was going to win $1.7 million, and then he doesn't win 1 point. He gets kicked out of the tournament.
Right.
His money, he would be a team captain. He would be making $30 million for Team Rahm. And here's the other kicker.
Would you have alternates? What happens? Somebody gets hurt over the course of a season. People get hurt.
Yeah, I think you pull people up from the PGA Tour, right? You'd buy them. The thing with the Team Rahm or Team Phil or Team DeChambeau, the one thing reading their statement, they would own the team. So part of the thing, like for an NBA or NFL player, even when you get super rich, like LeBron or Aaron Rodgers, you will never, ever be able to own while you're playing piece of that team, right? Maybe one day as you get older and you buy with a group, but you would, all these players, right? Russell Wilson's next contract. If Seattle was like, instead of giving you $40 million a year, we'll give you 18 and we'll give you 1% of the Seattle Seahawks. He would 100% take that, correct? Or whatever, to equal a lot of money. They would gladly take equity in the team. You and I have negotiated an equity deal. that went belly up, as a lot of startups do, but equity is a powerful thing. You always argue for equity.
I still have 12,000 shares, John.
That equity, if you can own a team, well, then I own the branding of the team. I own everything, right? So if my team, if you own equity in Ferrari, right, or McLaren or Mercedes, like that's part of, you get a piece of everything. That's part of, when you own equity, you get to reap all the benefits. That's a huge, like, I would be shocked. I'm sure they've been having conversations, but like there is going to be a moment when the top players and top agents, it feels like they'd be crazy to not have like a mob style meeting, right? Hey, can we just 20 of us get together and like hash out some conversations and just open? Wouldn't you want to? If I was Bryson, you were Phil and Ricky, like, hey guys, this week we need to find a time. Zoom, fuck, you don't even need to be in this. This is the type of meeting with this much money, I'd probably want to be in the same room.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, if you're going to do it, a lot of people have tried to take out whatever the number one is in professional sports. Football, it's happened plenty of times. Hasn't really happened in baseball. NBA, it happened. It's hard to know. Like, you're taking a bit of a leap of faith that all the money, all the infrastructure, all the support, all the dedication is going to be there, that you're going to get your money, and that this thing's going to be around in 5 years. Now, if it's not around in 5 years, but you got your money for 4 years, that might be worth it. But one thing we know is right now they are part of a very established money printing machine.
Yes.
So you would absolutely need to have everybody in it together. And even then, the bigger your group gets, the harder it gets for everybody to be on the same page.
I've always said this about, the NFL and the NBA too, but the NBA even more. One thing they have zero liabilities beside their body. And as a top player in the NBA, we've seen liability. Clay, Kevin, Kyrie, injuries are irrelevant. You still get paid. If a dude jumps off, like all the liability at the arena, someone shoots someone jumps off the balcony, someone gets in a car crash and dies. Everything that happens, that's on the owner. Something happens at the hotel, something happens to the plane. That is the type of thing that you have to worry about. Now, I guess as a PGA Tour player, you kind of are an independent contractor, so you're already worried about travel and home, right? You are dealing with some of that. You're probably a little more well-equipped than like an NBA player. The team does everything for you. Literally everything.
Right. Golf, playing. You pay your trainer. If you want another trainer, you got to pay another trainer. If you want the massage therapist to travel, you got to pay the massage therapist.
When you go to the Masters, you get the Airbnb, right?
Right.
So that is, they're already uniquely equipped to handle stuff like that.
That's true. I think one thing that would be interesting is when your team captain gets to a point where he needs to replace himself on the team. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, there would be a learning process.
I'm just saying it would be part of the entertainment of the whole thing.
I just think this is a thing that's not going to go away. Because one thing I think people have realized, and you and I have just seen the interest, I think the interest of golf is going up dramatically. And when interest goes up in anything dramatically, that means dollars. And I think the PGL already knows there is so much money behind golf already, right? The sponsors you can get. Their average income, relative, maybe F1's high too. I don't know enough about their fan base. Golf in America, by a mile, has, if you average household income, is probably triple the NBA and the NFL.
Yeah, the other thing is if you get
as a
fans,
consumer,
you get people who aren't as tied to your history, right? Like someone who I didn't grow up playing golf. I certainly did not grow up watching golf. I was not watching that much golf even in probably my early to mid 20s, and I wasn't really even playing golf in my early to mid 20s. I like the history,
it shows.
Huh? It
oh,
God, it shows. Fuck, no, you're not kidding. It's true. But yeah, there were some basic things about how it all works that I have to wait, what? I asked you all the time, like, how does that work? What does that mean exactly? My point being, you get a bunch of new people to your sport. Like if baseball suddenly got, a ton of new fans, you know what those people wouldn't care about? Runner on second base in the 10th inning. They're not tied to it. The way it used to be doesn't matter to them. So if you get a bunch of new fans, you're like, hey, PGL, this is how it goes. People would go, sweet, I've heard of Phil. Just tell me where he's playing. I've heard of John Rahm. Just Bryson and Brooks are playing in this random event. Cool. I don't know anything about it, but everyone says it's a big deal, so it's a big deal. It's not that hard to convert people if your stars are involved.
Golf has the least amount of things, though, to make the pivot as long as the majors come with them.
Exactly.
If the majors
That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, most of the tournaments, like I don't think even a 50-year-old that's been watching golf, like, I can't believe they got rid of the bear trap. No Bay Hill, no snake corner at Valspar. Like, I don't think most people give a fuck, right? But if you did, like, no more Masters, like, that'd be a pretty big deal. Like, you'd have to bring the majors.
I will say one of the things that over the years I learned about, it's an obvious thing that is very cool, and it just happened. It just finished up today, I think. The U.S. Open qualifying is one of the coolest things that any sport has.
Does tennis have that in the U.S. Open? Can you self-qualify as like a tennis player?
Probably.
I would imagine it does.
To me, the fact that literally anybody on this stream can practice and try and get into the U.S. Open. Anybody watching.
No, you have to have a certain handicap to be able to qualify for the Open.
But I'm just saying, you're not in the union. No one has to scout you. No, there's no work your way up through the minor. I mean, if
you have a scratch handicap, you can enter to the original.
Anybody listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube stream, if you work hard enough, you're good enough. You can just go, and then you go back to your job on Tuesday. You can play in the U.S. freaking Open. I mean, it's crazy.
It's hard though, right? I would imagine.
Yes, I'm just saying you can overcome the barriers if you're good enough at it.
Yeah, it'd be the equivalent of like every year, every NFL team, anyone that played college football in the region that has never got a tryout, under 28 years old, could show up and they would give.
But you don't even have to have played college football in this analogy.
I would imagine the overwhelming majority of guys that have ever qualified for the U.S. Open through the Open qualifying has played college golf.
I agree. I'm just saying it's not a prerequisite.
No, it's not a prerequisite. But okay, let's even just Vince Papale style. Anyone under 28 who just can come out to an Open tryout if you live in a 60-mile radius of all these teams. It'd be something like that.
Well, you could just walk out on the golf course and be like, what's that guy doing? Oh, man, that's Barry. Broke the club record last year. He said, if I break the record, I'm going to try and make the U.S. Open. And now he's trying.
Yeah, it's unique sport that way. But it's an individual. I think the sport is equipped to do shit like that, right?
It's wild. It's just so, to me, it's one of the coolest things. There's no like, you used to hear stories like this. Oh, the Cubs are having an Open tryout down at the high school. Like, oh, that's how they found him. Like, that's golf. Steve on the YouTube says 2.1 handicap, 8,000 entrants this year. 8,000 entrants. So it's wild. And the crazy thing is this year, it's like, that's the other thing. It's like established pros have to do it.
They do it every year though. The Ches Reeves, Keegan Bradley, like those type guys. There's always a fringe.
Keegan Bradley failed to qualify. Johnny missed the cut.
I know. He's probably a top 80 player in the world.
Ricky Fowler missed the cut. Aaron Wise missed the cut.
Phil's in. He wasn't going to be in though.
He got in because he won 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he would have had to do this.
Phil doesn't seem like he's been like locked in on his preparation for the U.S. Open.
I don't think he gives a shit. Do you blame him?
No.
I mean, I feel like he's just been playing money games. Yeah, the 2.1 handicap, though, you have no shot if you're a 2.1 handicap to make. Because just you and I.
What's Tyler Raber?
I know. I mean, I think when he's good, he's probably a +5. He's done it. He qualified. He went to the U.S. Open, and rain delay. He had to play 27 holes on a Friday, as the story goes. Oakmont, historically, that or whatever the one Bryson won at last year is considered like the hardest. Whistling Straits right up there too. But Oakmont, I think the last decade was considered the hardest course. It was really hard, but a couple struts off, rain delay throws you off. I just think that the qualifiers, though, are at easier courses, and it's just like a birdie fest. Like, you better go low. I mean, Rick Neuheisel's kid, you and I were talking about yesterday.
Joe, not Jerry.
Because I thought Jerry was on Chip Kelly's staff.
Yeah, well, he is.
I was like, God, did he quit football to play golf? I commend him.
I was texting with Rick on Monday. He was pretty fired up, and then you had some reports from the course that also said Rick Neuheisel was seen very fired up. So Joe got into a
because my U.S. Open contingent was texting me on Saturday. Rick Neuheisel's in front of us. They thought they were there practicing for the event yesterday, and thinking just like, oh, Rick's a member here. Rick's just playing. Turns out Rick doing the same thing they are with Joe, just getting ready. And Rick's like,
Boise State.
Joe Neuheisel. You think Boise State would be a cool place to play golf?
It's a beautiful area. I mean, the problem is it just gets cold as hell. But when it's nice, it's really nice.
I bet they got some cool
I had
courses
some
in the
friends
area.
that went up there, just got an Airbnb for a week, like a couple months ago, just to hang.
Yeah.
So it's a good spot.
They just went to Boise, Idaho to hang out.
I just went to Boise, Idaho for a week. Yeah, got an
Fuck,
Airbnb.
I would do that tomorrow. Sounds amazing. It's not a bad place to just go.
Yeah, I don't know what the flight situation, like if it's easy to get to Boise. I would imagine it's not that hard to get to Boise.
Well, get in your Honda Accord and just fill up that gas tank, and it's a little more. The gas tank even in a Honda Accord was for about $70 right now, 60.
No, it's like $50, $50, $60.
What is it usually for you?
Probably around that.
Oh, but right now, I mean, gas prices at all-time high, right?
Yeah, I mean it's probably usually $43, and now it's $55. I don't know.
Yeah, it's high.
I thought about it before. I'm always like, 17 more cents over there. Like, fuck that. Well, I'm going to drive for another 8 miles. And it's like, in the end, what'd you save? $3 on a 13-gallon tank? But
it lasts a while, too. You get good gas mileage. My point is, I drove the Honda Accord to Boise, Idaho.
yeah.
I made the drive.
And how long did that take you?
I don't remember the route. I think there's a chance I would hit Boise to Davis in one day. I just wanted to get home. I know I did it Eugene to Davis in one day. I did a long drive from Boise, Idaho, but I might have stopped because that feels pretty far.
High school drive Davis to Eugene, was that? I don't think there was a stop on the way, right? That was just
I mean,
through.
it's like the thing is, the difference is we left in the morning. I finished my day at like 5 o'clock.
Oh, that was a
like,
solo drive you're talking about, too.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to stay here. I want to go home.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to drive all the way to the Bay Area, so I just stopped at my parents' house.
Anything else we need to hit today? KD and the Nets on their way to a championship.
That's all I got.
Baseball celebrations. They're awesome. College baseball players. It really feels like they've taken it to another level. Like another level.
Well, did you see, how many people you think were at the Arkansas game?
I don't know what their capacity is, but it was banana. The Arkansas,
Just
the Tennessee game the other day was when the guy threw the bat in the air, just on his walk off.
Would you say
that
like 15,000 people? I mean, it looked
Looks
jammed.
incredible.
Someone was like, "Oh, what do they have to do in Arkansas?" Well, you can use that anywhere. I just know that in the SEC, why do I turn on these games and you always can't move?
Well, that's the one thing is you do get. I was talking to somebody about it, texting yesterday. It's like you do just get, I think, more just quote unquote college towns that play high level sports in the South, for example, right? Like how many Pac-12 schools are in college towns?
Yeah, not
Oregon
many.
State, Eugene for Oregon, Pullman, Washington State, maybe the Arizonas, maybe, but the LAs and the Bay Areas are
Arizona
not
State,
college towns.
kinda.
Seattle's
Tucson.
not.
I'd say Tucson is.
Tucson, okay.
Boulder.
Yeah, Boulder absolutely is a college town, but they don't have a baseball team.
The Colorado doesn't. I guess
Colorado doesn't have a baseball team. Yeah.
Has that always been the case, or they cancel it? Since you've been around?
I don't know that they've ever. Maybe they had one, but
Does Utah have a baseball team?
Utah has a baseball team.
So does the Pac-12 only have 11 baseball teams?
11 baseball teams.
So one of the teams is always playing like an out-of-conference series or something?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's kind of weird, but also makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, how does Michigan State have a baseball team? Some of these schools.
Alter Field. Probably.
People play baseball in the Big Ten.
They don't. They
Like,
start
where'd
late.
you play baseball? Iowa.
Well, yeah. They usually start their seasons on
one
a
of the
coast.
things that, they play out in like Pepperdine, Long Beach State, and Cal State Fullerton like their first 3 games or
Yeah,
series.
Stanford. I remember Indiana came to Stanford a few years ago.
I guess the SEC is just made for baseball, right?
It's
Hot
warm all the time.
golf, baseball. Yeah, it's just a lot
College
of golfers
towns.
and baseball players come from the South.
I mean, every dude is just fucking looks like he's been on the squat rack and the forearm machine. It's like.
Did you know Arkansas was good at baseball?
Yeah, #1 team in the nation. All
I didn't
year.
know. I didn't know that. They always. That's the thing about the SEC. I guess I knew Vanderbilt's good. Mississippi State's always been good. I did not know Arkansas.
Tennessee's really
That
good.
was
this year.
sweet. When that guy hit that home run, the outfield went. It felt like watching a big league game. It was badass.
I remember hearing stories from a Pac-12 school where they went to a regional. I forget which one. Maybe it was Arkansas, and they said it was one of the most. The Pac-12 fans came back and were like, it was unbelievable. Like every fan was just offering you beer and offering you. They're like grilling, literally in the outfield. Like not literally in the outfield, literally right behind the outfield wall. They just got a barbecue out there, and it's just nothing like it. The closer to your playing surface that you can barbecue, to me, just infinitely enhances how great your experience is. And baseball, softball, really the only one you can just be in the stadium, kind of, but out of the stadium. But barbecuing, it's a pretty rare thing.
We had a barbecue down the third base line at
That's what I'm saying.
is it Kruko or was it Ozzie Smith? I forget what the name of it is. Baggett Stadium?
Landing?
Kruko?
Something
It
Landing?
was Kruko area. Yeah, we
Kruko's Landing?
something like that. Yeah, get free beer and free hot dogs. You just had to have a special ticket. And John Middlecoff was the VIP host for 2 years and let all the cool people in.
That's a great job.
It was incredible. It was free beer. Free beer.
What do you think? Do you have any idea what the ticket was? It a ticket you could buy, or was it just a VIP?
Yeah, it was
hangout?
it was VIP special team. I mean, there were a lot of people in there, but I mean, when word got out, Middlecoff. Now the problem is sometimes the assistant AD would stand right next to me, so he'd be kind of looking. But when they would leave, I'd give the little wink, and the guys would come on in. Once you're in, you're in. You know, it's one of those.
Are those 4 guys from SIGEP Boosters?
Yeah, this guy, paid for the outfield signage right there.
All right. A couple questions on the stream about Niners OTA injuries, that kind of thing. People coming in late. We did that talk at the beginning of the show today, so go check out the podcast, which will be out tonight, or just go back to the beginning of the video, and you can check that out there as well. So just FYI, a lot to talk about today. A lot of hanging out to do.
Lot going on, guy. A lot going on.
Even when they tell you there's not.
Make it happen.
There is.
It's where you get paid the big bucks.
We'll be trying to qualify for the emergency U.S. Open alternates at Kuip. So good luck to us.
Adios.
Later, everybody. Thanks for hanging.